Alright, we're going to use this question to study what are isotopes. So this question says that chlorine has two isotopes, namely chlorine 35 and chlorine 37. So they ask first for the definition of isotopes. This one you have to memorize. There are three parts to this definition. You need to tell me isotopes are, they are the atoms of the same element they have the same number of proton and different numbers of neutron. So these are the three parts to the definition. Take note, in the exam, some of the students like to say that they have the same protons and different neutrons. That's wrong, because protons are protons. What is the same and what is different is the number. Okay, so he says here in the definition, atoms of the same element. So chlorine 35 and chlorine 37, they are both chlorine. That's why we say that they are the same element. But they have different number of neutrons. That's why we see that the number over here is a bit different. So in the next part of the question, we're supposed to find out how many protons and how many neutrons there are in chlorine 35 and chlorine 37. How do we do this question? Go to the periodic table. You should be able to see a tile of chlorine in group 7. Right, chlorine looks something like that. So this number at the top here represents the proton number. So for both chlorine 35 and chlorine 37, we said that they have the same number of protons, right? So both of them will be 17. Then what is the number of neutron? To find out the number of neutron, you just have to take a hint from the number at the back. So this number at the back represents the mass number of the atom. So if we recall, what is mass number? Mass number refers to the number of protons and the number of neutrons. So in chlorine 35, we know that number of proton is already 17. So how many neutrons are there? We simply can just take 35 minus 17, so the answer will be 18. There are 18 neutrons. What about chlorine 37? Same thing, take the mass number minus proton number, answer is 20. Now just for revision's sake, how many electrons are there in these two isotopes? So if we recall, number of electrons is always the same as the number of protons. So if the question asks the number of electrons, you can simply copy down the number over here. So for both chlorine 35 and chlorine 37, there are 17 electrons. Now in the last part, the question likes to ask, okay, so two chlorine 35 atoms will form a chlorine 35 gas molecule. Basically, this is saying that a chlorine 35 atom will combine together with another chlorine 35 atom to form chlorine gas. So chlorine gas forms the chemical formula Cl2. Alright, and then you have the same thing for chlorine 37. So chlorine 37, in the same way, an atom of chlorine 37 can chemically bind with another chlorine of 37 to form another chlorine gas molecule. Okay, so it says here, does these two chlorine gas molecule have the same boiling point? Explain your answer. So you have to know that boiling point, melting point, these are what we call physical properties. And physical properties is dependent on the mass number. So these chlorine 35 gas molecule and chlorine 37 gas molecules, they have different mass number and hence they will have different physical properties. So will the chlorine gas molecules have the same boiling point? No. Why? Because they have different physical properties. Or you can tell me first, they have different mass numbers which will lead to different physical properties. And that's it.